Welcome to the Alumni Lounge. I'm your host, David Carafa, the podcast that brings you fascinating conversations with extraordinary individuals who have walked the halls of success at Lyons Township High School. On today's episode, I have Tyler Nelson, a creative director at Optimus in Chicago.
How's it going? My name's Tyler Nelson. I am a creative director at Optimus, and I am an alumni of LT. I graduated in 2008.
All right, so what was your...
We're rolling?
Yeah.
This is it.
How
long have we been rolling?
What?
How long have we been rolling?
Oh, it's the whole time.
You heard all that.
The whole time.
We'll have to chop this up in post.
Yeah. So when did you graduate from LT?
In 2008.
And how was your time at LT during that?
My time there was excellent. I loved it so much. The first year or two that I was there, Bob Foskit was kind of in charge of the station. Then Bill Allen came in for the second half of that, which was great. Both of those guys were, incredible and learned a lot. I think like a lot of people when they first start, you'll go to a shoot. A lot of times you're gripping or like camera assisting, some assistant work before you jump into the actual role of whatever it is, camera operator, director. So I did that probably for the first year because I remember my freshman year, the group there was really great. There's Matt Perilli, Mike Stevens, Rotenberry. I don't know what happened to that guy. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but John Kim, it was this group of guys who had been there for years. At the time I came in, they had really worked hard to kind of build this awesome station, and so I was coming in and kind of taking the ride with them, learning from them and trying to, do the best work that I could. And then after, they all graduated and then it was kind of up to me to figure out the path I wanted to go. And, but yeah, it was really, really fun. My junior year, we had tried to start LT News. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
Shortly lived. Well, it wasn't too short. Maybe it was 4 episodes or something. And I think it would come out monthly. We were trying to align it where it would come out every month, kind of like similar to what the Lyons newspaper did. And originally my plan for it, I thought it'd be really great to do kind of like a hard news, very political driven show. The more I thought about that, I thought maybe it'd be nice to actually go away from that, not get super politically involved with the show. And the show ended up taking a turn and becoming a little more, I think for the better, like entertainment based and a little more fun, a little more youthful. And we were thinking that might appeal to the students there, still keep them really informed with news and things that were going on, that were important in the world, but also keeping it light and fun. So that was really fun. That took up a lot of my time junior year. And then senior year is when I started doing more of the sports broadcasting, which I really enjoyed. And it was a great year. 2007, 2008, I remember, we were always knocking it out of the park at C-Tech, winning a lot of awards. And I loved the sports broadcast aspect of it. It was so much fun, specifically basketball. I don't know why I'm not remembering the name of that gym. Bennett Field?
What?
What's the field house? I forgot the name.
Just at North Canada Field House.
Yeah, Field House. Everything there was always really fun. The truck was parked there, so that logistically it was pretty easy to do a shoot there. And it was kind of just, I think we had that down pat. We can set up pretty quick, and it was always a blast. And that's when I started getting really into the motion graphics aspect too, because we were, while we were trying to update our camera equipment, overall improve the image of the station. A big part of that was the graphic design and just channel identity that we were, helping kind of rebuild. And that's when I got really involved and interested in animation and graphic design.
Tell us a little bit about how it was working with Foskit and Bill.
They were both great. Different styles. They're two different guys. And Foskit was really incredible and taught me a lot about, he was a really great manager of that station too. And, he had a really high taste level, and I think he gave everybody, especially as a student, just a lot of freedom to get hands-on and make some really cool stuff. And he was great. I was really sad when he retired. I knew losing him would be a huge loss for this, and I was really used to working with him for so many years. So many people were, and he just brought a certain level of like humor and camaraderie, to the station, which was awesome. And so I was worried when I found out he was retiring. that some of that would change or that it would go away. And we were really lucky. I think once Bill came in, Bill is a very different style, but it was outstanding. You know, and then he kind of came in with fresh eyes and a whole fresh look at the station. And then you could see, you know, kind of a shift in the evolution of LTTV, and the direction that it was headed was great, you know. So I'm extremely grateful every day to both of those guys.
Tell us a little bit about what you do as a creative director at Optimus.
The story of getting there was really crazy. I'm pretty lucky, and I'm not always a very lucky person, but in that case, it was kind of wild. The Lyons newspaper interviewed me like senior year of high school, and they would do a thing, I think it was called like Senior Spotlight.
I think so, yeah.
And they would interview maybe, you know, 10 people, and, you know, every month. And they would just ask, like, what do you want to do when you graduate? And at the time, it's a long story if we have time. I don't know, limit on YouTube. But Bill's brother, Greg, owns a really successful music studio.
Sonic Sphere,
exactly. And it was, I think back in the day, it was called Spank.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And we went there, we took a tour of it. And I think the minute I started to see like the post-production world, especially in Chicago, it's such a vibrant, awesome, you know, world. And our city's really strong for it. Chicago's a great city for post and just advertising in general. And so I was talking to Greg and I said, you know, this is something I'm really interested in doing. And he kind of said on a whim, he's like, oh, well, there's a company, Optimus, if you want to do like animation, graphic design, right down the street. I think they were both on like Grand Avenue, you know, in Streeterville. And he's like, yeah, this place here has been around forever. They do awesome work. You know, we work with them all the time. You should try to get a job there. And I was like, okay, you know, and that was it. And I left. And then a couple weeks later, I'm doing this interview for the Lion. And she was like, well, you know, what do you want to do when you graduate? And I was like, oh, I'm going to go to Columbia and then I'll get a job at Optimus. And I had no connection to Optimus. All I had heard is what Greg Allen said, you should go work at Optimus. And that was all. So I just blurted that out. And then, you know, thankfully, which is really weird, the owner of Optimus, Tom Duff, lives right in LaGrange. And he was his wife. And I think he is also friends with the history teacher at LT who was like looking at this article being typed for the Lion. Yeah. And she called him and was like, hey, there's this kid here like talking about your company. So, and he was extremely nice. You know, I think he emailed Bill. Yeah. At the time, and he said, "Oh, there's a student here who is interested," and right off the bat, he was extremely welcoming, and kind of told me about the internship there. And yeah, so I initially started going to school at Columbia, and my plan was to go through 4 years of Columbia and then go and do an internship there. And I decided to kind of change it up after the first year at Columbia, and I just thought, this internship is a great opportunity that doesn't come up that often with a great company. Oh yeah. And I decided to basically, after my first year, if they would take me back, I called Tom and I said, hey, I said I was going to wait 4 years, but if I could, I'd love, to start this internship now. And I was 18, 19 at the time. And he was like, oh yeah, for sure. Come on in. And so I did. And and I've never left. I was there. I interned there for 2 years. The first year was like a general intern, it's intern work, serving, you're delivering lunch orders, and bagels, coffee. Yeah. And back then too, it was before everything was digital. So we would when a spot was done, a lot of times they would put it on tape or DVD and put it like in this really nice branded little Optimus bag. And we would run it to the, whatever agency all over the city. Mm-hmm. And that was awesome too, because I got to see where every place was, located, where Ogilvy and DDB, Kramer, Krasselt, Y&R, all these places. I could go in their office and see a little behind the scenes, which was super fun. And then the second year of my internship, I moved up into the design department as like a design intern. Did that for a year. Then eventually they hired me on, which I was super excited about, as an assistant designer. And I did that for a couple of years, then became a designer, eventually a senior designer, and at this point, creative director. And so, I've been there. It'll be 15 years. Wow. 15 years? Yeah, it's a long time. Oh, my goodness. But it's a great... The guys who own Optimus have owned it since, 1996. And they were originally... That company was owned by Anheuser-Busch. And then these guys bought it. And they're just... really good guys? Well, similar to Bill and Foskit, they're, really accommodating to the people that they have underneath them. And they know, happy people make really great work. So keep people really happy, and also show them a path that is best for them, not necessarily best for you, and it's something that I've taken my whole life, so that's kind of a link between oh, for sure, your link at LTTV and then going into absolutely. And I think a lot of people, especially, depending where you go to high school, if your school is, if you're lucky enough to have a TV program, sometimes they're not that advanced. I always imagine, like, if you grew up in a small town, could you imagine, like, a very small high school?
Yeah.
And then you go to a school like Columbia, it would be like a quantum leap forward.
Like a big shock.
A gigantic shock. And in our case, if anything, I feel like we were able to do more hands-on at LTTV. I almost felt like a little bit limited when I first went to college. But as far as, like, technology and everything like that, there was absolutely no shift. LTTV was extremely advanced. It still is. And from the technological aspect, it really puts you in a good spot to, progress in your career. So if this is what you want to do. Well, you know what I could do is I could talk about this whiskey.
Oh, yeah?
So this is, I was going to, before we started rolling, but
what?
There was a whiskey, you've probably seen it in the store. It's called Whistle Pig.
Uh-huh.
And when it first came out, it was like, I don't know, 2011 or something.
Yeah.
And it was really, really, really good. But it turns out what they were doing is, like, it was going to take them 7 or 8 years to get their batch ready. So in the meantime, they were, like, renting a whiskey from Canada.
Oh.
Called Alberta Premium. You can never buy it in America.
Yeah.
And it was really good. And they would basically ship, crates of it over and then rebrand it as Whistle Pig here in America. And they said it's going to be really close to, like, what our batch is going to taste like when it's done. Now it's their batch. It does taste a lot different than the original, like, mix, solution they were using here. And I was always so mad because I loved it. And you could never buy it in America until, like, last year. They started selling this here in the U.S.
This is pretty good.
It's good. It's smooth. It's really light. It's a light. And I always forget if you like rye or bourbon, but
I like both.
I've always been a rye. Yeah, now I'm starting to really like bourbon.
Yeah, I like all sorts of. I like rye. I like bourbon. I like
cold medicine, whatever. I can get my hands on. I'll have it. Yeah. No, I like them both too. You like Scotch?
Oh, not so much. I
don't like that peaty flavor, and I don't like mezcal.
No.
And so many people are nuts about mezcal.
I really don't like vodka. That's one that I don't.
I can have vodka every now and then.
I had
a little lime.
Yeah. No. I like margaritas though.
Oh yeah, God. Well, I like tequila's great.
Yeah.
What is I can't think of the name of it now. Clooney's Casamigos.
You want a little bit more?
Yeah. Do you? We'll progressively get more and more blitzed as this episode goes.
What kind of challenges did you face at LTTV?
I mean, I think the budget is probably always everyone's challenge. If you're trying to make something really, really awesome, you can have something done really well. You can have it done really quickly.
Yeah.
Or you can have it done really cheaply. And I think at LTTV, just inherently the way it's set up, you have to figure out a way to do all three, and you make stuff fast. And you have to figure out a way to do it pretty affordably. I mean, there are not gigantic budgets in public access. And, you have to still figure out a way to make it look really good with not a lot of money. And it was a challenge, but I feel like because of those challenges we had, it's always what made the work probably better. And I'm thinking of, like, Buddha Chamber. You know, that show was done pretty cheaply. And for those, listening who have never seen it, it was like our answer to, at the time, like, G4 TV was really popular. Attack of the Show was really popular. Just a very pop culture focused, movie, music, TV review show, that we hadn't really done before. I mean, I think in the past we had, but it had been a number of years before a show like that had been on the channel. And that was really fun to do. Yeah. And Steve Buddha's hilarious too. And I think the challenge with him was he just couldn't stop swearing. I mean, almost every word he said was, like, wildly inappropriate. We could never, ever air it. It was like his hour-long show was an hour-long beep, but it was great. I mean, I really enjoyed doing that. It was so much fun. Everything we did there was really fun. But yeah, no, it was always a challenge to kind of work within the parameters and confines of local access. Not that it was bad. I do think it made better work because of it, but it's a challenge we were presented with,
How about your favorite memory? Do you have any favorite memories?
Oh, I have so many favorite memories. Let me think. That's a good question. I mean, honestly, I the whole entire thing was a great memory. I remember when Bill first started. I remember that summer of, like, 2006 or whatever. It was really fun. And I had mentioned it earlier, but there was this, kind of the sense that the tide was shifting a little bit at the station. The work that we were going to do was going to be a little bit different. And I think just overall the atmosphere in the station was going to maybe feel a little bit different, which was, I was really excited about that. And, also high school isn't like the nicest time of life. People are not like high school students are not nice all the time, and it's like, to me, I've definitely felt like an outcast, and I was an AV nerd and I totally was. And I think a lot of the people in LTTV were, and for us, like we were able to go into this cave that was like I hate to say it, but it was like a safe space for us to work and do the stuff that we really enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
And there was no judgment, and I feel like outside of the walls of LT, it's not just LT, high school in general is tough, and it's tough for any student. I think it's really tough for teachers too, but we were able to like go for however long it was after school for a couple hours and make like really awesome stuff together. And that was a great memory. That was my favorite part of it. And we made really, I think it was only so good because we all enjoyed it. And it shows. It showed through the work.
I remember vividly. I don't know if you remember this. We were shooting something for the park district, and it was during the summer, and we were in that Bill's car, the Decrepit.
Oh, the Dodge Decrepit, yeah.
And it was like balls hot. The air conditioning didn't work, and
Oh my God.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. He had that car for a long time, and I remember that when he first started. Mm-hmm. It was always teetering around empty. There was never a lot of gas in that car. And that was a challenge. We'd have to go sometimes a pretty far distance, and whether or not that car was going to make it. And we always were having to drive out to Oswego. I remember. I think Buddha lived in Oswego.
Yeah.
I had never spent more time in Oswego, Illinois than I did that one summer. I was like, I know exactly the year you're talking about. It was hotter than hell. It was like summer of 2007. And it was also, it was the cicada season.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And I remember hot, sweaty cicadas. And that car didn't last too much longer after that, I don't think. He kept it for a while, though. No, all those memories are great. I mean, and it's like the stupid stuff that I always remember the most, honestly. It's like during a basketball game, we would get like our crew dinner, whatever, an hour before we went on.
Yeah.
And it's weird, too. I think unless you were in the club, you really didn't even know that was going on. But the truck was always parked in this garage behind the gym. Yeah. And we would go in there and like sit there, a couple golf carts parked. And I remember we would like plop down and like, eat pizza and hang out a little bit before this thing went on. Mm-hmm. And it was great. It was always my favorite part of the night. There's like a little bit of butterflies and there's a lot to hit. I mean, it's a live show. And I don't know if people realize that, like, it's a traditional live broadcast. Mm-hmm. And you can't like in the middle of it be like, oh man, well, and just give up. Like the game's still going on. You have to continue through it, and also try to do it like at a really high level. And so there was like in the beginning, before the game would start, like a little bit of butterflies or whatever. But, but then it's also a really fun group of people that you're working with. And, it was a blast. I loved every part of it.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
In the role as creative director, there's a little more responsibility over the whole team. There's a lot more responsibility over that. And you have to make sure that like all of your artists, which are the best team, I don't care what anyone's, I love the team that I work with so much. Mm-hmm. And, I have to look out for them too. And I think that right now, that is the most fun part of my job is I have to make sure that they're on projects that they're really fulfilled with, make sure that they're happy, and then I also have to make sure that they feel like they're, growing in a good direction. And the really sad thing is, as much as I love our team, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize like things do not last forever. Yeah. And so as wonderful as everything is right now, there will be a moment. It's the way life is. A lot of our artists are going to go elsewhere. They'll go work. And myself, we all might. There will be a point in time where the team we have now won't be the team, and I'm fine. I'm starting to become really fine with that. And I just hope that whatever we can do together, they can. Everyone can kind of take that with them into their next role and just grow from it and learn and become a better designer. It's all I can hope for. And so that part of it's really, really, really fun to kind of look outside of yourself and try to figure out, from a team perspective, how can you get the best possible work from all these artists and make sure that they're happy while they're doing it, while they're doing the work.
What advice would you give to somebody that's wanting to get into this field, like the motion graphics or,
It's, never say no to an initial opportunity. A lot of times it's an internship, and I think, especially now, there might be a reluctancy to do an internship because they're not always like the most fun. They don't pay well, but they're invaluable, and it's an extremely great foot in the door. And you're able to meet people and work hands-on a lot of times, like right in the trenches of the project. And that just goes a long way, and that'll really set you up for success in the future. And I think also not to give up with things. I mean, I got really lucky that I went to high school, got this internship, and stayed there for the rest of my life, but that's unheard of. And, a lot of times I know a lot of people that I work with just had to work for years and years. And, you have an internship, it doesn't work out. You go to another place, that doesn't work out. The other place you go to closes, COVID hits. I mean, there are so many young artists that were starting their like internships, especially right when the pandemic hit.
Oh, yeah.
And I always put myself in their shoes because it was such an important part of my life. Like when I did, when I first started that internship at Optimus, and I couldn't imagine at that time, like in 2009, if the company had shuttered the doors like we did in 2020 and then closed for years, went remote, it changed a lot of how people work. And so I really feel for people right now who are trying to get hands-on training when everyone in a lot of places aren't together. They're all remote.
Yeah.
And so it's extra challenging right now. But yeah, I wish I knew all the answers. I would just say to not get discouraged. Because there's a lot of, especially in television production or graphic design, film, whatever it is, you're constantly being critiqued. Every single time you turn around, someone's telling you what they don't like about the project you did. It's just the nature of the beast. I'm told a million times a day how what I did wasn't good. Yeah, really. And it's and then every now and then, of course, you do something that is good, or over rounds of revisions, you get to a point and then the client or whoever it is, you yourself as a designer is really happy with it. But, there's a lot, it could be very discouraging. So you just have to be very strong and know that it's like that for everybody. There's never a moment in anyone's career where it just is easy street. It is always going to be extremely difficult. And then you make really good work with it. It's really fun. You work with people that you really enjoy working with.
Love what you do.
Yeah, you love what you do, and you make cool stuff. And and I think most importantly, you get to meet really awesome people. So it's worth it in the long run. You were asking how it's kind of sets you up for the future, but it's like before a shoot, you have 20 people, that we're all there working together, and. But in a way, though, even though there's a director and there's the camera people, there's all the, everyone involved, there is one vision that everyone kind of has to unify on and try to get through that shoot. But that always set me up really well for the future. I mean, because that's how it is everywhere. It's even, at Optimus, it's like that. Anywhere else, you have a project. At the end of the day, you're working with a group of people. And, you're hoping for the best. And you hope that somehow all of you that are each bringing your own little skill to it can somehow work together to make one kind of unified, awesome piece of work. And so, LTTV always taught me that was extremely valuable. It set me up pretty well, probably better than college did, honestly, because it was very hands-on. We were doing it.
Very hands-on. Well, thanks for coming on the Alumni Lounge.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you next time, where stories collide and memories reside.